So let's begin by offering our respects to
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Yay.
Okay. So do we have any questions from the previous class? What did we see in the previous class?
The summary of the first section.
The summary of the first section of the Bhagavad Gita, the first 6 chapters. Okay.
With Prabhu Niranta.
With Prabhu Nirantara, yes. You were not there for the last part of the blessings.
For the last part, no.
Okay, you had to go?
Yeah, I was in someone else's house in the morning, and it was like 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So,
Okay, no problem.
but
Okay.
I heard all the class until the last part where it was question section.
Okay. Did you see the recording?
Which recording?
The recording of the joint class, because after that there was, he gave blessings to each one, he spoke to each one individually. So that was very nice and interactive. If you have the time, you can watch it.
I'll watch it, and maybe I'll watch the class again because it was a very inspiring class. Full of lots of energy and
yes, and he spoke non-stop, no? For over an hour.
Non-stop.
He was speaking non-stop. Yeah,
Non-stop.
Yes, tremendous effort. Because of time constraints, no? And then after the class, he asked me privately, was I too fast? He was concerned about that.
No, it was brilliant.
I said, no, it was perfect. It was brilliant. It was very good. Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll have him back when we finish the middle 6 chapters. Then he'll come back and summarize the 6 chapters for us.
What I realized is that if we wouldn't have had the classes systematically, there were some things that I wouldn't have understood.
Yes.
That he summarized, like, oh, okay, we saw that in the previous class, or oh, okay, now I know. If I would have heard that class, let's say last year, I wouldn't have understood like the class. So that was a good realization as well, the importance of systematically studying it and with your blessing.
Good, wonderful. Okay, so what else did we see? Did we start chapter 7? Does anybody remember? How far did we go? How far did we go?
We did the Falashruti, and then we started with 7.1, no?
Yes.
7. And then you told the importance of chapter 7. It forms the middle part as you treasure the jewels. So the jewels are always in a treasure box. And so the previous chapters from 1 to 6, and then the last chapters, they keep this middle important chapters as the essence or the
Yes.
the jewels are always in, like, you keep it safe, right?
Uh-huh. Yes, very nice. Okay. What else did we see? What did we see in verse 1?
The data.
What did we see? Sorry.
It's important, the importance of hearing.
The importance of hearing, very important, no? So we saw how Krishna in the beginning of the Bhakti Yoga section itself, he talks about the importance of hearing. So right away he's contrasting the complexity of Ashtanga Yoga with the simplicity of Bhakti Yoga. So in Bhakti Yoga, all we have to do, it all begins by just hearing. And we saw how hearing is very important because it's the first sense to develop when we are in the wombs of our mothers, and it is the last sense to fade away or fail when we are on our deathbeds. And also when we are sleeping, the sense of hearing is still working. So that's why hearing is that much more important. And we also have histories, from Mahabharata also, and even otherwise, how Abhimanyu heard when he was in the womb of his mother, how Prahalad heard when he was in the womb of his mother. So hearing is very, very important. And the Bhakti Yoga process begins by just hearing. We simply have to hear. Okay. I realized when I saw the recording that the audio, the shloka didn't play. And Disha even told me, but I didn't realize what she was telling me. So we will hear the audio again. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay. Let's hear Shloka 1.
अथ सप्तमोऽध्यायः श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यासक्तमनः पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः असंशयं समग्रं मां यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु.
So we need some volunteers to read. Who can read today? 2 volunteers we need.
I'll do the reading.
Okay. You would like to read the verses or the other text?
Anything.
Okay. And one more volunteer we need? Anybody else? Nobody wants to read?
If you're okay if I make mistakes, because I'm not in my best senses today.
Doesn't matter. We are
So
all
I might be a bit more slow today.
Doesn't matter. It's okay. So Krishna sees the intention, right? Okay. So let's begin our... Can we read the translation, please?
Now hear, O son of Pritha, Arjuna, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt.
So we discussed in the previous class how Krishna, with great expertise, he gives us the entire Bhakti Yoga process, how we can reach the level of Mai Asakta Manaha in this one verse itself. So just by reversing the order of this shloka, we put the last thing first. then we see the steps of how we can reach the goal of Mai Asakta Manaha, or always think of Krishna. So this is the epitome of any yoga system. Any endeavor by any yogi finally has to come to the stage of Mai Asakta Manaha. So how to come to the stage of Mai Asakta Manaha, how to come to the stage of thinking of Krishna? It all begins by Shrinu. Shrinu means to hear. We just have to hear. So we can hear from the acharyas, we can hear from the spiritual master, we can hear from other sadhus. Sadhu, what is the meaning of a sadhu? Sadhu is anyone who's performing sadhana. From the word sadhana comes the word sadhu. Sadhana means he's following some spiritual practices. So we can hear from other sadhus, the spiritual masters, acharyas. We can hear from Krishna. So like that, just by hearing, then we get to know Krishna. Yatha Jnasyasi. We know Krishna. And how do we know Krishna? We know completely, samagram. So we get complete knowledge about Krishna. And when we get complete knowledge of Krishna, then all our doubts go away. Asamshayam. There are no more doubts in our minds. And when all the doubts go away, the next natural step is that one takes the shelter of Krishna. Mad Ashraya, Krishna says, Mad Ashraya, take shelter of me. So then obviously when all the doubts go away, when we know about Krishna, all the doubts go away, then we take shelter of Krishna. Because before this stage, then there are so many doubts that people have in their minds, no? People ask us, oh, why Krishna? Why should I take shelter of only Krishna? There are so many gods. Why only Krishna? So when we hear about Krishna, then we understand why, and our doubts go away. Then we take shelter of Krishna. Taking shelter of Krishna means yogam yunjam. Then we practice Krishna consciousness of bhakti yoga. And by practicing bhakti yoga, we come to the stage of Mai Asakta Manaha. So here we know that there are 9 items of devotional service as given to us by Prahlad Maharaj in the Srimad Bhagavatam. They are Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakhyam, Atma, Nivedanam. We have discussed this so many times. So even this, out of these 9 processes, the first thing is hearing, Shravanam. Shravanam is coming before everything else. So the first item of devotional service also is hearing. Let's go to 7.2.
Jnanam deham savijnanam idam vakshyamyasheshatah yajñātvā neha bhūyonya jnātavyam avashishyate.
I shall now declare unto you in full this knowledge, both phenomenal and numinous. This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know.
Okay, now what are the Sanskrit terms for phenomenal and numinous? He says he's going to declare knowledge in full, both phenomenal and numinous knowledge. So what is the Sanskrit for phenomenal knowledge and numinous knowledge?
Jnanam
Vijnanam, Jnanam and Vijnanam.
Ah, yes, Jnanam and Vijnanam. Now we have seen these terms before. And what were the meanings of these terms we learned before?
Knowledge and the application of knowledge.
Knowledge and the application of the knowledge. What kind of knowledge was Jnanam there?
Acquired knowledge.
Acquired, yeah, but what? Material or spiritual? We can acquire both material and spiritual knowledge. Material. So Jnanam and Vijnanam. Jnanam is material knowledge and Vijnanam is application of the material knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge.
So Jnanam meant which knowledge? Our previous understanding I'm talking about, not this verse. Previous
Material.
understanding.
Material.
So Jnanam and Vijnanam, if Jnanam is material knowledge, then how are we going to apply spiritual knowledge? If we acquire material knowledge, how will we apply spiritual knowledge?
And then we have to acquire both.
Okay,
We
but
have to prioritize one.
okay, I think we are mixing the 2 verses. Our previous understanding of these terms, Jnanam and Vijnanam, I just want to know the meanings of these 2 terms. Previously when we learned, Jnanam meant spiritual knowledge and Vijnanam means application of that spiritual knowledge. This was the meaning of the terms we learned before in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, but now in 7.2, the meanings of these terms have changed. Now here Jnanam and Vijnanam means material knowledge and spiritual knowledge. Okay, now what Krishna is saying, very, very important. He says, I will declare unto you in full this knowledge. So which means he is going to give us complete knowledge. There is nothing that he is going to hold back. All that we need to know, Krishna is going to give us. And what does he say? This being known, nothing further shall remain for you to know, which means he is giving us everything. Everything he's going to reveal in this Bhagavad Gita for us. That's why Bhagavad Gita is called as the manual of life. We know everything that we need to know to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So transcendental knowledge, as per this verse, here Jnanam refers to material knowledge and Vijnanam refers to spiritual knowledge. Previous understanding, why I'm specifying this is we should not get confused with the terms. We have to be very clear where Jnanam and Vijnanam means what. Okay, so here in this verse, Jnanam means material knowledge and Vijnanam means spiritual knowledge or phenomenal and numinous knowledge. Knowledge of both these two is considered to be transcendental knowledge. See, Prabhupada gives the definition of what is complete knowledge. Let's read.
Complete knowledge includes knowledge of the phenomenal world, the spirit behind it, and the source of both of them. This is transcendental knowledge. Srila Prabhupada.
So Prabhupada says that complete knowledge means we know the knowledge of phenomenal world, or we know the knowledge of the material world, plus we know spiritual knowledge, the spirit behind it. So complete knowledge means know matter and spirit, and to know the source behind both of them. That is complete knowledge. So somebody may argue, why do we need material knowledge? Because we have to reject the material, right? We don't want to deal with the material. But what is Vaishnava philosophy? We use the material in the service of Krishna. So because we are in the material world and we have to deal with the material energy, it's important to have knowledge of the material energy, because only then we will be able to deal with it. We can learn our lessons even from the bad things. From somebody's past bad experience, we can learn, right? So therefore, knowledge of material is also important. So complete knowledge means to know the material, know the spiritual, and to know the source behind both of them. So we know that there are 33 crore, they say in Hindi, there are 33 crore Devi and Devatas. Can all of them be the source of both material and spiritual? Can all of them be the controllers? Can we put all of them at the same level? Yes, we have to respect everyone, no doubt about that. But if you have to see the facts as to who is coming from what, who is the source, who is the sarva karana karanam, who is the cause of all causes, then that is an inquiry that we have to make, right? We have to know who is the one who is the source of everything. Who is that one person? Who is that one supreme controller? A country cannot have two presidents. A country can have only one president. He can have many ministers working under him, but he can have the country can have only one president. Like that, there can be only one supreme personality of Godhead. Who is that supreme personality of Godhead? That we have to inquire. So this is a quote from the pulpit. Let's read this.
When cause of all causes become known, then everything knowable becomes known and nothing remains unknown. Bhagavad Gita 7.2, purport Srila Prabhupada.
Yes. So when the cause of all causes become known, when you know that one person who is the cause of all causes, he who has caused everything to happen, then everything knowable, everything that we should know becomes known, and there is nothing that is held back. Nothing remains unknown. What's happening in the picture? Can somebody identify?
No, I don't know what's happening.
From the navel of Lord Krishna,
Okay.
the Brahma is evolved.
Okay. Anybody else wants to try?
From the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Brahma comes and Krishna plays the flute and gives the four
It's
Vedas to Brahma, the full knowledge.
Okay. Anybody else wants to try? So Naresh, you're partially correct, but there are some aspects which are not very accurate.
The accurate is actually Ishvara Parama Krishna or Sachidananda Vigraha, right?
No, what you are saying is a prayer
That
from the
the-
Brahma Samhita. But
Yeah.
what is happening here? Here, Brahma is not reciting the Brahma Samhita. Something else is happening here in the picture.
Yeah, through the flute, Krishna is giving knowledge to Brahma.
Finally, Adar spoke. So through the flute or through the transcendental sound vibration of Krishna's flute, he is giving knowledge to Lord Brahma. But what has happened before this? And what exactly is Brahma receiving from Lord Shri Krishna?
The four Vedas, no?
The entire four Vedas? Actually, how many verses does he speak to him?
4 verses.
4 verses. He just speaks 4 verses, 4 shlokas, and that is all that Brahma requires to understand what he is supposed to do. Before that, what happens? Brahma is coming from the navel of which personality?
Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Okay. From Garbhodakshay Vishnu, the lotus comes, and then Lord Brahma has come into existence. And then Lord Brahma, immediately he knows who he is and what he has to do. Is he a self-realized soul?
He was meditating for 10,000 years.
He meditated. He didn't know who he is and what is he supposed to do? What is his service? So then he meditates, and then finally, after his meditation period, Krishna gives him the transcendental knowledge via the flute vibration. And he speaks to him 4 shlokas. They are called as the nutshell verses or the Chatushloki of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then that Chatushloki became the 4 Vedas. So through that Chatushloki, then Brahma got the knowledge who he is and what is his service he has to create and whatever else he has to do. Okay. Now there is this statement by Jesus Christ where he told his followers, I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. So yes, Jesus Christ also came to teach us the principles of Sanatana Dharma, right? After Jesus Christ left, his followers gave his teachings the name of Christianity after the name of Christ. But Jesus Christ came to preach Sanatana Dharma, and he said that I have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now, which means he did not reveal this knowledge in full. Because as we discussed previously, the preacher always preaches according to time, place, and circumstances, right? According to his audience. Therefore, he said that you will not be able to bear them. In contrast to that, Krishna says in the Arjuna that after knowing this, nothing further shall remain for you to know, which means Krishna has revealed everything that we need to know.
मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद्यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः.
Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth.
So here Krishna is talking about the rarity of knowing about Krishna. Only a very, very rare soul will know Krishna in truth, tattvataha. He will know Krishna as the tattva or the absolute truth. So Krishna is saying, out of many thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. So, one may achieve perfection by realizing the Brahma Jyoti or the Paramatma. But one who has realized the Brahma Jyoti or the Paramatma does not know Krishna as a person, does not know me in truth, right? Does not know Krishna as a person. So here Krishna is explaining how rare it is for a soul to understand Krishna as he is, as a person. And this he mentions twice more in this chapter itself. 2 more times, Krishna talks about the rarity of a person who knows Krishna in full. We will see that in 7.19 and 7.26. So most human population, Krishna says, out of many thousands of men, one may endeavor for perfection. So most of the human population, they are engaged in activities of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The animals eat, we also eat. The animals sleep, we also sleep. The animals mate, we also mate. And the animals defend, we also defend. So if we engage only in these activities, that doesn't mean that we should not engage in these activities at all. Of course, we have to eat, sleep, mate, and defend for our, to take rest. The body needs to eat and sleep. Grihastha ashram, one is allowed to unite with the opposite sex to have Krishna conscious children, and defending also. But if we do only these activities and we don't use our human life to realize God, then we are no better than sophisticated, well-dressed, polished, two-legged animals. So most human population is in this animalistic culture. Khao pio, maza karo, eat, sleep, and make merry. So for us to just come to the level of human existence, we have to at least follow the 4 principles. When we follow the 4 principles, then we are leading a life of dignity, which is worth for a human body. As long as we are not following these 4 principles, then we are only leading an animalistic life. And the next birth will be that of an animal. Again, we will be cats and dogs. So with that, we come to the end of section 1. Now we'll see section 2. Let's read this.
Section 2, 7.4, 7.12. Knowing Krishna's material and spiritual energies. Krishna is the source of both matter and spirit, can be seen in the world when we view all existence as a combination of Krishna's material and spiritual energies. He is also the active essence of everything. Although Krishna is not under his energies, the 3 modes, all else in material existence is manifested by combination of goodness, passion, and ignorance.
Okay, so we'll see this in detail as we see the verses.
भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहङ्कार इति यं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा.
Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. All together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies.
So here Krishna is talking about his material energies. What are the material energies? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. These are the 5 gross elements. And mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are the 3 subtle elements. So these 8 elements together constitute Krishna's separated material energies. Krishna says separated material energies. Now, what do you mean by separated? Srila Prabhupada explains this with an example. It's there in that book, Komal, which you bought, Perfect Questions and Perfect Answers. In that book, Prabhupada explains that the milk of the cow is the separated energy of the cow. And then another example that Prabhupada gives is if you record my voice on a tape recorder and then play it later, so the voice that is coming, the sound vibration that is coming from that tape recorder is my separated material energy. Srila Prabhupada says. So that's what we mean by separated material energies. It's coming from the person, but now the person is not connected to it, separated. So these 8 elements, Krishna says, are my separated material energies. 7.5.
अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगन्.
Besides these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior in nature.
So previously he spoke about his material energies. Now he is talking about his superior energy or the spiritual energy, which comprises the living entities, which is us. The spirit souls belong to Krishna's superior energy. And we are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. So earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego is being used by the living entities. But we, the living entities, we belong to Krishna's superior energy. But see see how this thing works, right? Now that we are in the material world, we come under the influence of Maya. Actually, we are superior to her. We are superior to material energy, material nature. But we come under the influence of the inferior nature. Being superior, still we come under the influence of the inferior nature. This is a question that is asked in the Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll come to that slide later. But before that, so we can see how the living entities are Krishna's superior energy in the core of the heart of living entities. Both the Atma and the Paramatma, the soul and the super soul, are residing. And why we belong to Krishna's superior energy is because qualitatively we are the same as Krishna. Of course, we are quantitatively different, but because qualitatively we are the same. What does that mean? Qualitatively the same means Krishna is Satchit Ananda. He is eternal, full of knowledge and blissful. We also, the Jiva, the spirit soul, is also Sat Chit Ananda. So we are also by nature eternal, full of knowledge and blissful. We are not meant to go through any kind of suffering. The soul is always supposed to be in a blissful state. But unfortunately, because we are in this material world, we have to go through suffering. We have to go through birth, death, disease, and old age. So if Krishna is Satchitananda and the Jiva is also Satchit Ananda, blissful, then why are we suffering is the natural question. Okay, before we read the text, can you identify the characters on the screen? I'll give you a clue because this is a tough one. The person in orange is a leading character from the Mahabharata. And he is actually Yamaraj. Yamaraj was cursed and therefore he had to take a lower birth. Who is he from the Mahabharata?
Vidura.
Vidura, yes, Vidura. And Vidura here is with his spiritual master. Who is the spiritual master of Vidura?
Vyasadeva.
No, not Vyasadeva.
Bhishma.
Not Bhishma. The spiritual master of Vidura. This is a little tough. Anybody? Okay, he's Maitreya Rishi. So Vidura in the Srimad Bhagavatam asks this question to Maitreya Rishi, that how is it possible that the spirit soul comes under the influence of material nature? Because the spirit soul is pure, it belongs to Krishna's superior energy. How is it possible that that pure spirit soul comes under the influence of the material nature? And then Maitreya Rishi answers this question. So let's first read text 5 only.
Text 5. The pure soul is pure consciousness and is never out of consciousness, either due to circumstances, time, situations, dreams, and other causes. How then does he become engaged in nascence?
So this is Vidura's question. The pure soul, it's completely pure. How does he become engaged in nascence? How does he come under the mode of ignorance? Because the mode of nascence means ignorance. And mode of ignorance is prominent is a part, all the three modes are part of the material world. So how is it possible that he becomes engaged in this in ignorance? That is Vidura's question. Let's see what Maitreya Rishi answers in text 11.
Text 11. As the moon reflected on water appears to be seared to tremble due to being associated with the quality of the water, so the self associated with matter appears to be qualified as matter.
So what is he saying? Because of the association with matter, because the spirit soul is now in the association of matter, therefore the order is getting reversed. The original order is what? Living entity is superior to material nature, always superior, much more powerful. The living entity is much more powerful than material nature. But because of his association with matter, this order gets reversed. Just like how as soon as a piece of iron comes into a magnetic field, it is drawn towards the magnet, right? Immediately. In the same way, as soon as the spirit soul comes in the realm of this material world, then this order is getting reversed, coming under the influence of matter, coming under the influence of Maya. But then, is this a permanent situation? Can we reverse the order yet again? Let's see what he says in text 12.
Text 12. But that misconception of self identity can be diminished gradually by the mercy of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, through the process of devotional service to the Lord in the mode of detachment.
So this order can be reversed yet again when we render devotional service to the Lord. When we render devotional service, then we can again come back to our original position where the living entity is greater than material nature. We don't have to come under the influence of material nature. And Krishna also says the same thing later in this very chapter, which we will see in 7.14. Let's read this.
This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
So what is the formula to reverse the order? It is to surrender to Krishna. How do we surrender? By rendering devotional service. And devotional service starts with hearing. Okay, let's read the rest of the text.
1. Living entity bigger than material nature always. 2. Living entity less than material nature due to its contact with matter. Order is reversed. 3. Living entity bigger than material nature when surrenders to Krishna. Order is again reversed.
Okay, so it's not a hopeless situation. We can reverse the order. First of all, accepting this body was a bad deal for us. But now that we have this body, we have to make the best of a bad deal, which is, all right, now engage. Now that we have accepted this material body, now use the body in the service of Krishna. 6.
एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा.
All created beings have their source in these two natures of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world. Know for certain that I am both the origin and the, I can't see that word,
Dissolution.
dissolution.
Okay, so all created beings have their source in these two natures. Which two natures? Which two natures has Krishna spoken of?
Material nature?
Material nature and
Spiritual?
And spiritual nature, yes. Now, what is he saying? All created beings have their source in material and spiritual natures. Now, here created beings means embodied beings, beings who have a material body. So all embodied beings are a combination of both matter and spirit, because the body is material and the spirit soul is spiritual. So like that, all embodied beings or created beings have both matter and spirit. Is a combination of both these two things. Now, of all that is material and all that is spiritual in the world, know for certain that I am both the origin and the dissolution. So Krishna is saying that he is the origin and the dissolution of everything, right? He is the origin of all that is material and all that is spiritual. So somebody may ask, but isn't Brahma the creator? Doesn't he create? So how do we answer that question? Is Lord Brahma the cause of all causes? Has everything come from Lord Brahma, or has Lord Brahma come from something as well? Lord Brahma comes from
Krishna?
Krishna, more specifically, which expansion of
Garbhoda-
Krishna?
Garbhoda
Garbhodakashayi
Krishna.
Vishnu. And Garbhodakashayi Vishnu is Krishna's first expansion in the material world, right? So, of course, Brahma is the creator, but he is called as a secondary creator. He is not the primary creator. Who is the primary creator? Primary creator is Krishna, because here Krishna clearly says that everything material and everything spiritual, he is the origin of both. So there is nothing, or Krishna has not come from anything. Because if Krishna comes from someone, then that someone is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, naturally and obviously. But here Krishna says that he is the origin of everything. So yes, Brahma is the secondary creator and Krishna is the primary creator. The Srimad Bhagavatam has 10 subject matters, and 2 of them are Sarga and Visarga. Sarga refers to primary creation, elemental creation, and Visarga refers to secondary creation. So Krishna is in charge of Sarga and Lord Brahma is in charge of Visarga. 7.7.
Mattah parataram nanya kinchidasti dhananjaya mayi sarvamidam krodam sutre manigana iva.
O Conqueror of Wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me, as pearls are strung on a thread.
There is no truth superior to me, Krishna says. Matta parataram nanyat. There is nothing above him. And then he says, everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So such a beautiful analogy Krishna is giving. We may admire a very nice, beautiful pearl necklace, but what is it that is holding those pearls together? It's the thread that is running through the necklace. Yes. So everybody can see the pearls, but nobody can see the thread that is going behind the pearls. So we can see material nature. We can identify, we can appreciate waterfalls, we can appreciate nature, we see the beautiful mountains, snow-capped mountains, we see the ocean and we say, oh, how beautiful. We see the flowers, so beautifully painted, the flowers, such nice colors. See the wings of the butterfly, so nicely painted, right? And both sides are equal. So we see all these things in material nature and we appreciate that, but we are not able to see the creator behind that. Who is the one who has brought everything into existence? So Krishna says that he is the thread behind those pearls, and there is no truth superior to me. So all the planets that are floating in the universe, they're all floating because of Krishna's energy. It's not by chance that they're just floating in space. Nothing. Prabhupada said that nothing happens by chance. There is a reason behind everything. It's just that the reason is unknown. The cause is unknown. We may not understand the reason behind it, but there is a reason. Sometimes somebody may be suffering and we may think, but he didn't do anything wrong. He's such a nice person. Why does God do this to him? Well, what we can only see is what the person is in this lifetime. but we don't know what the person did in a previous lifetime. Or even us, when we suffer, sometimes we may think, but what wrong have I done? I'm a devotee, I'm following Krishna consciousness, so why do I have to suffer? Well, I don't know what I did in my previous lifetime, and probably I deserve much more, but Krishna has given me a discount and I'm suffering less. But actually I would have deserved much more. So there is a cause for everything. There is a reason behind everything. Nothing happens by chance. If I just look at the most ordinary, even a pen, I look at an ordinary pen, even though I don't know who made the pen, I may never know the person who has made this pen, but still by looking at the pen, I know that there is a maker behind the pen. So why do we think that all the planets in space have come into existence on their own? How is that possible? And something as ordinary as a pen has to have a maker. How can the planets not have somebody who's controlling them, who has brought them into existence? It's not logical. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he says that the power of the visible is only an iota of the power of the invisible. So iota means very small, minuscule part. So the power of the visible is a small, minuscule part of the power of the invisible. In a pearl necklace, it's the thread, that invisible thread, which has more power than the visible pearls. So this is a nice article that he has written. Let's read this.
All things are from Krishna, through Krishna and in Krishna. All things are from Krishna. He is the source, the sustainer, and the substance of all things. The Gita 7.06 states that he is the absolute truth, the causeless cause of everything. Whatever exists may have come into existence through many intermediate causes, but its ultimate source is Krishna. All things are through Krishna. The Gita 13.23 states that he is the overseer and the permitter. Even when things seem to happen because of self-interested people's misdeeds, those things have gone through Krishna as the gatekeeper, sanctioner before coming to us. All things are in Krishna. Whatever exists, exists in Krishna. Nothing is outside of his jurisdiction. Even when people act godlessly, they are still under God's control, having chosen to become puppets of the illusory energy of which he is the master. 7.14.
So all things are from Krishna. Everything is coming from him. He is the source. He is the origin. Everything comes through Krishna. He has to sanction it. And all things are in Krishna. Nothing can exist outside the jurisdiction of Krishna. Even a leaf cannot move without Krishna sanctioning it. Everything is under his jurisdiction. 7.8.
Rasohamapsu kaunteya prabhasmi shashi sudyayoh pranavah sarva vedeshu shabdah khe paurusham rishu.
Translation?
Yeah. O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man.
So in this verse and the following 3 verses, Krishna talks about how he is the defining element of everything and everything, how he is the essence of everything, Krishna says. So he begins here in 7.8. The first thing he says, I am the taste of water. Now, according to science, water is tasteless. Water has no taste. But Krishna is saying, I am the taste of water. So according to Ayurveda, the taste, the different tastes that the food products have, fruits and vegetables, it's all present because of water. And even our tongue, right, is constantly wet. If the tongue is completely dry, we will not be able to taste any kind of food. If we put some solid in the mouth, we will not be able to know the taste of that element until that solid melts in the saliva of the mouth. Only then we will know the taste of that food item. So therefore Krishna says that I am the taste of water. If the tongue is not wet, we will not be able to taste any food element. So as I said in this section, he's defining how he explains how he's the defining element or the essence of everything. Then he says that he's the light of the sun and the moon. Srila Prabhupada explains how Krishna will send one ray of sunlight and all the green mangoes turn yellow. All the flowers which were closed, they bloom in the morning, right? The moon, the moonlight gives the juice to the vegetables. Krishna says that later in the Bhagavad Gita, how the juice in the vegetables is because of the moonlight. So Krishna says that he is the light of the sun and the moon. Then he says that he is the syllable Om in Vedic mantras. So even that syllable Om is none other than Krishna. The word Om, the syllable Om consists of three, we have it here, is a combination of three letters, A, U, and M. And for those who know Hindi alphabets, it's the alphabet the matra U, and the alphabet M, right? So A here refers to Krishna. The word U refers to Srimati Radharani, who is the pleasure potency of Krishna. That's why one of Srimati Radharani's name is Urjeshwari. And M refers to all the living entities. So Om refers to as a whole. When somebody says Om, actually we are taking the name of Krishna. All the mantras, all the pranam mantras, doesn't matter whose pranam mantra it is, any Devi Devata's pranam mantra, it will begin with Om. Om Ganapataye Namaha. Om Shanishcharaya Namaha. So all these mantras, the pranam mantras of all the demigods begin with Om. So which means we are taking the name of Krishna before we take the name of any other Devi or Devata. Let us read in detail what the Goswamis explain about this Omkara.
Pranava, Omkara, is the complete representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they, the 6 Goswamis, have analyzed Omkara in terms of its alphabetical constituents as follows. Omkara is a combination of the letters A, U, and M. Kironochiate Krishna. The letter A, Akara, refers to Krishna, who is Sarva Loke Nayaka, the master of all living entities and planets, material and spiritual. Nayakaya means leader. He is the supreme leader. Nityo Nityanam Chenas Chetanam, Katha Upanishad 2.2.13. The letter U, Ukara, indicates Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of Krishna, and M, Makara, indicates the living entities, Jivas. Thus, Om is the complete combination of Krishna, his potency, and his eternal servitors. In other words, Omkara represents Krishna, his name, fame, pastimes, entourage, expansions, devotees, potencies, and everything else pertaining to him.
So Krishna says that he is the syllable Om. Then he says, I am the sound in ether. So sound travels through air. That's how we can have so many different languages and speak so many languages, right? And then he says that he is the ability in man. So if somebody has extraordinary ability, somebody may be a fantastic dancer, very good singer, painter, whatever ability, or a sportsman, whatever ability, extraordinary ability a person may have, that ability also is coming from Krishna. Without Krishna, that ability will not be there in that person. So we should not be proud. If we have any ability, some good talent, then we have to understand that it is coming from Krishna. It is Krishna's mercy, and we have to use it in the service of Krishna. 7.9.
Punyo gandha prithivyaam cha tejaschasmi vibhavaso jivanam sarva bhuteshu tapaschasmi tapasvishu.
I am the original fragrance of the earth. and I am the heat in fire. I am the life of all that lives, and I am the penances of all ascetics.
So I am the original fragrance of the earth. Now we have so many different kinds of flowers, fruits, vegetables, and they all have a unique fragrance, isn't it? Where does that fragrance come from? Because we plant the seed has no fragrance. The seed is programmed to extract a certain kind of fragrance from the earth. So it's the earth that has the fragrance. The fragrance is not in the seed, right? So the seed extracts a certain fragrance from the earth, and that's how we get these fragrant flowers. So Krishna says, I am the original fragrance of the earth. Then he says, I am the heat in fire. So the defining element of fire is its heat. We have digestive fires also in our stomach, which helps us to digest the food. Then he says, I am the life of all that lives. So even the duration of our life, that is also Krishna's mercy. He can prolong it, he can shorten it. I am the penances of all ascetics. So sometimes tapasvis, they do tapasya, right? They may stand in the middle of fire, or they may stand in the river's cold water. Sometimes the water is freezing. They stand on one legs. So they do a lot of tapasya. So that penance also that they do, that is also coming from Krishna, Krishna says. Prabhupada would, once he commented to his disciples that look at these flowers. Each flower is beautifully painted by Krishna. So then somebody asked him, what does that mean? Does it mean that Krishna is personally coloring them, painting them? What does that mean? So then Prabhupada explains that Krishna has so many potencies. He doesn't have to exert himself to do something like us. Krishna has, of the many potencies that Krishna has, one is Ichha Shakti, the potency to get things done just by his willing, just by his thinking, Ichha. He just desires it and he can get it done. He doesn't have to exert himself to do something. Just as how if somebody wants to print something, we have Wi-Fi and we give a print command, we press a button and the output is generated in the printer, right? Effortlessly. Like that, Krishna has the technology to get things done just by his desire. Ichha Shakti, it is called. For us, time separates. We have the desire to do something, then we have to do it, and then over a period of time, we may get the output. For us, time separates. But for Krishna, it's not like that. He just desires it, and the output is ready. Okay, 7.10.
Bijam mam sarva bhutanam vidhi partha sanatanam buddhir buddhimatam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham.
O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of all existences, the intelligence of the intelligent, and the prowess of all powerful men.
So Krishna says that he is Bijam, he is the seed. Bijam Mam, he says. Mam means I. So he says, I am the seed. Seed of what? Sarva Bhutanam, of all the living entities. He is not just the seed or the origin of only Indians or only human beings or only Vaishnavas or only devotees. No, he is the source, original seed of all the living entities, of all existences, the ants, the humans, the Indians, the Americans, man, woman, everyone. He says that I am the original seed. So Bijam Mam Sarva Bhutanam, he says. Then he says he is the intelligence of the intelligent and the prowess of all powerful men. So if you take the intelligence of the most intelligent man on the planet or the most powerful man on the planet, that intelligence or that prowess of that person, that is also coming from Krishna. That is Krishna. Now, Krishna has many potencies as we discussed, but broadly speaking, the Acharyas explained three, that he is omnipotent, all-powerful, omnipresent, he's present everywhere, and omniscient, he knows everything. Because everything material that we see around us, as we saw, that is also Krishna's energy, right? So he is present everywhere. He is all powerful. There is nothing that Krishna cannot do. I don't know if I discussed this before, but Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was an expert astronomer and astrologer, but he gave it all up. He gave up astrology. The reason being, he said that astrology can predict everything, but astrology cannot predict the Krishna factor. Because when we bring Krishna in our lives, then he can change the rules of the games for his devotees. When Krishna appeared, when he was quote unquote born, as people usually say, but we use the word appeared. When Krishna appeared in that jail of Kamsa, if you read the Bhagavatam, all the planetary systems and the stars, they realigned. They were all realigned because Krishna has appeared. So when we bring Krishna in our life, we can change our karma. Krishna can change it for us in our favor. Okay. So he is omnipotent, he is all powerful, omnipresent, present everywhere, and omniscient. He knows also everything. So sometimes we may have a little problem in accepting or realizing or putting into practice this understanding that he knows everything. Sometimes when we go through difficulties, we go through struggles in our life, we tend to question or we tend to think that, does Krishna really listen to my prayers? I've been praying so long. I have been practicing Krishna consciousness. So then why is he making me go through this suffering? Does Krishna actually hear me? Does Krishna really understand what I want? You know, such thoughts come to our mind when we go through extreme distress. But we have to remember that he knows everything. Krishna knows what we really want. Krishna hears every single prayer of us, every single thing, every single word we say to him. He is hearing. He hears everything. He knows everything. So Krishna does fulfill the desires of his devotees, however, in the best possible way. Because sometimes we don't know what is good for us and what is not good for us. We may misunderstand. But because Krishna is omniscient, he knows everything. He knows that, okay, if my devotee wants this, but this is not the right time to give this to my devotee because it is not good for his or her spiritual well-being. So Krishna will delay giving it to us, right? So he gives it to us at the appropriate time and in the best possible way. So we should not doubt that. We have to have complete faith that he is omnipotent, he is omnipresent, and he is omniscient. If we put that faith in Krishna, then slowly we will realize that what we learn theoretically actually comes true. It is practical, and we can experience it in our life. 7.11.
Balam balavatam chaham kamaraga vivarjitam dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi bharatarshabha.
I am the strength of the strong, devoid of passion and desire. I am sex life which is not contrary to religious principles. O Lord of the Bharatas, Arjuna.
So this is how previously he said that he is the intelligence of the intelligent, prowess of all powerful men. Here he says he is the strength of the strong, devoid of all passion and desire. Kama raga vivirjitam. So yes, he's a strength, but sometimes that strength may be mixed with passion. Oh yes, I want to do this. You know, a lot of passion comes into that and desire to lord it over the material nature. So that kind of strength is not Krishna. Okay, so he is that strength of the strong, which is devoid, which is vivirjatam of kama and raga, passion and desire. Here Krishna is being very specific. Then he says, I am sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. Now, what kind of sex life is not contrary to religious principles? A man and woman can unite for the sake of having
Having a child.
And what kind of a child?
Krishna conscious child.
Krishna conscious child. Yes, Krishna conscious child. So see, that's the goal of this Grihastha ashram. Because if everybody is going to practice celibacy, nobody gets married, there is no Grihastha ashram, then how will the souls get the opportunity to get a human body? So sex life within religious principles is that they unite in order to have Krishna conscious children. So what was the previous, what's the Vedic system, as we discussed before, when a couple when a couple would get married and it's time to have a child, then they would perform the Garbhadhana Samskara so that they can attract a good soul, a nice devotee soul. They would seek the blessings of the elders. They would go to the Vaishnavas and the spiritual master, and they would seek the blessings of the Vaishnavas so that they can have a nice Krishna conscious child, right? But now the modern day culture is what has taken over. The honeymoon culture has taken over. So what happens after marriage? They go, I don't know, to whatever destination. They go to Hawaii, Kerala, Goa. These are all popular honeymoon destinations, right? So they go on the honeymoon. There is no Garbhadhana Samskara that's taking place. There are no elders whose blessings they can seek. So the woman just conceives, right? Or worse still, they use contraceptives and they prevent a soul from getting the human birth. Okay. So in this honeymoon culture, what happens? That honeymoon culture, that sex life which is meant for recreation, that is not Krishna. Sex life which is meant for procreation, for having children, Krishna conscious children, that sex life is Krishna, Krishna says. So here also he is being very specific. What kind of sex life is he? So sex life for procreation is Krishna. Sex life for recreation, that is not Krishna. 7.12.
ये चैव सात्विका भावा राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि.
Know that all states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am, in one sense, everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature, for they, on the contrary, are within me.
So now Krishna is talking about how even the three modes of material nature, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, and Sattvaguna, mode of goodness, passion, ignorance, they are also manifested by his energy, he says. But then he says, although he has created them, he is independent. He is not under the modes of material nature. So Krishna has created them, but he is not under the three modes. Even when Krishna comes to the material world, everything about Krishna is spiritual. His body is completely spiritual. Some people misunderstand that when Krishna comes to the material world, he has a material body, but no, Krishna is never, he has nothing material about him. Everything about Krishna is spiritual. So he says that although he has manifested these three modes, he is never under these three modes. Just as how there is a king and he has some rules and regulations for his kingdom, but the king is not under those rules and regulations. Sometimes even the police officers may break the red light and move ahead to nab the criminal. So they are not under those rules and regulations. So like that, Krishna says that although these modes are manifested by him, he is not under the three modes. So in that sense, Krishna is nirguna. Nirguna. Guna means the three modes. Nirguna means he is not under the modes of material nature. Now, sometimes this nirguna word is used to say that he has no qualities. Nirguna, without qualities. But it's not that Krishna is without qualities. He is without material qualities. Okay. Here are some characteristics of the three modes. Let's just read this.
Three modes of material nature: Sattva Guna, mode of goodness; knowledge, free from sins; conditioned by sense of happiness. Rajoguna, more of passion, unlimited desires, fruitative activity, attraction between man and woman. Tamoguna, more of ignorance, madness, laziness, sleep, and intoxication.
Okay. So here is a pictorial representation of the three modes, how the living entity is under the influence of these three modes. Very, very hard to come out of this. But there is a reality beyond this, which is that Krishna, he is beyond the three modes of material nature. So is God Nirguna and Nirakar? Is he Nirguna without qualities and without form? We will try and analyze and answer this question. Let's read this.
While the Vedic scriptures do say those things, that is not all that they say. Often the very same scriptures that say that God is Nirguna also say that he is Saguna, with qualities. Consider this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 8.3.9. Tamse namaha pareshaya brahmane nanta shaktaye arupayoru rupaya nama ascharya karmane. This verse describes the Lord as both arupaya, without form, and urupaya, having many forms. Therefore, one cannot quote only the word arupaya and declare that the verse says that God is formless.
So see, in the third line, these words appear, Arupaya and Ururupaya. So this verse is saying that God is without form and is also saying that God has many forms. So if we just quote one and not quote the other, then we are doing what is called, that is called as Ardha Kukuta Nyaya, or half hen theory. We know the story we've learned in school, no, of the man who had this hen who laid golden eggs, and he didn't want the front part of the hen because he had to feed the hen. He only wanted the back part of the hen because the back part of the hen gave him the golden eggs. So he cut off the neck of the hen so that he doesn't have to feed it. But what happened? Because of that, he even lost out on those golden eggs because, of course, the hen is dead. So that is called as the half hen theory, Artha Kukuta Nyaya. Accept one and reject the other. So if we quote only one part of the verse, then that is not appropriate. So now how to understand, what to do, how to reconcile, because this verse says that God is without form and it also says he has many forms. So how to reconcile? There is another verse here. Let's see.
Svetvara Upanishad 3.19. Apani paro javano grahita pashyati achakshu sa shrinoti akarna. This verse contains an apparent contradiction. Pashyati achakshu, God has no eyes, but he sees. How is this contradiction to be reconciled?
Okay, so let's see how we have to reconcile such apparent contradictions.
The Vedic tradition contains a special pramana, method of acquiring knowledge, called arthapati, postulation, used for reconciling contradictory statesmen by postulating a third statement. In addition to the standard three methods of acquiring knowledge, pratiksha, direct perception, anumana, hypothesis, and shabda, hearing, especially from the Vedic literature, Jiva Goswami, in his Sarva Samvadini, gives 7 other ways. Arthapati is one of them. To see how Arthapati works, consider these 2 contradictory statements. Ravi does not eat food during the day. Ravi is growing fat.
So we have already learned about the 3 ways of acquiring knowledge, no? The Pratyaksha Praman, Anumana Praman, and Shabda Praman. But Srila Jiva Goswami, gives us more ways to acquire knowledge. And when there is a contradiction, when there are two statements which contradict each other, then we use arthapati, which means we introduce a third statement to reconcile the contradiction that are there in the first two statements. So now we have an example. How Ravi does not eat food during the day. Ravi is growing fat. So it appears to be contradictory, because if he does not eat food, then he should be growing thin. And if he's growing fat, it means he's eating food. So how to reconcile this contradiction with a third statement? What third statement would you put here?
Ravi eats food at night.
Exactly. Smart. Very smart. So Ravi eats food at night is a third statement which will reconcile the apparent contradiction in the first two statements. So now how to reconcile the statement that God is Nirguna or God is Nirakar? How to reconcile? We will see here. Let's read.
Arthapati to reconcile these two statement would be Ravi eats at night. Similarly, the Arthapati to reconcile a statement about God having and not having a form is God has no material form but has a spiritual form. The same principle applies to the descriptions of God as both Nirguna and Saguna. The Nirguna description implies that he has no material qualities, and the Saguna description conveys that he has spiritual qualities.
So how to reconcile? Yes, there are scriptures which says that God is Nirakar. God does not have a form, but he does not have a material form, but he does have a spiritual form. Same thing for Nirguna. He has no material qualities, but he does have spiritual qualities. This is how we have to understand. When we say that God is Nirgun, Nirakar, it means that he has no material form and material qualities, but he does have a spiritual form and spiritual qualities, because God is a person. God is a person. He is not formless. The word formlessness is there in the dictionary because the word form exists in the dictionary. The word formlessness would not exist if the word form was not there. So there is no meaning to formlessness without form. Yes. So yes, Krishna is both. He is both form and formless, because Krishna resides in Goloka eternally as a 16-year-old boy, as a cowherd boy. He has a form, he has a person. And how is he formless? The Brahma Jyoti, the light emanating from Krishna, that is also Krishna, right? So in that aspect, he is formless. But that doesn't mean that he is only formless and he is not a person. That is incorrect understanding. Incorrect. Or incomplete rather, not incorrect, but yeah, incorrect and incomplete. Yes. Okay. So sometimes people, those who are impersonalists, they argue that if you say that God has a form, you are limiting God. But God cannot have any limits. So therefore he is formless. But a Vaishnava will argue that no, when you say that God cannot have a form, then you are limiting God. Because if he is God, how can he not have something? Let's read.
Do personality and form not limit God? Vedic wisdom helps us understand that what causes limitation is not form, but matter. Due to the very nature of matter, all material objects are limited, whether they have form or not. But God is not material, he is entirely spiritual. That which is spiritual has the potential to be unlimited, whether it has form or not. God's spiritual form does not limit him.
Yes, Krishna's spiritual form does not limit him. We saw how Krishna showed the universal form, the Virat Roop on the battlefield to Arjuna, right? And the description given, we will read that when we go to chapter 11, that wherever Arjuna looked, in whichever direction Arjuna looked, Arjuna could see the universal form. He was not able to see anything other than the universal form. It completely covered everything that Arjuna could see around him. So having a form does not limit God. Now let's come to section 3. Let's read this.
Section 3, 7.13, 7.14. Krishna controls the modes, so surrender. Those who surrender to Krishna, the controller of the modes, will cross beyond the delusion caused by three modes and come to know him.
Now, based on what we have seen so far, somebody may ask this question. All right, so if Krishna is the supreme controller, if everything is coming from Krishna, if he can mend everything broken, if he is omniscient, if he is so powerful, if he provides everything to everyone, both material and spiritual, then what is the reason that everyone does not surrender to Krishna? Somebody may ask. So Krishna answers this in the 13th verse.
त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैर् येभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम्.
Deluded by the three modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible.
So what is the reason that people do not surrender to Krishna? Because people are deluded. They are under the influence of the three modes. They are deluded by the modes of material nature. Therefore, the whole world does not know me. People do not understand Krishna as the absolute truth. And therefore, everybody does not surrender to Krishna. So there are many statements by many people. They say, oh, Krishna, actually, he's a woman hunter. He had so many gopis. He's dancing with the gopis. Sometimes people say he's a failed politician. He did not prevent the war. He could not prevent the war from taking place. So these are statements by people who are deluded by the three modes. They do not understand Krishna as the absolute truth. And because of that reason, everybody does not surrender to Krishna. In the Nectar of Devotion, there is the statement that forgetfulness of Krishna is the chief cause of fear. When one can remember Krishna constantly, then a person is completely fearless. Just as how we saw Prahalad, he went through so much physical, mental, psychological torture by his own father, but he was not hassled at all because he remembered Krishna at all times. Yes, and he had complete faith that the Lord will save him. So therefore, he was completely fearless. So that fearlessness comes when we do not forget Krishna. Now, in the Vedic scriptures, there are so many rules and regulations, right? But there are two rules which are considered to be the servants of all other rules and regulations that exist. What are they? Let us see. This is given to us by Lord Chaitanya in a conversation that he had with Srila Sanatana Goswami. Let us see what it is. Let's just read the translation.
Translation. Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never forgotten at any time. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras should be the servants of these two principles.
So two principles and everything else, all other rules and regulations given to us in the scriptures are servants of these two rules. What are they? We should always remember Krishna, and number two, never forget Krishna. As simple as that. How can we always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna? Srila Prabhupada said, just chant Hare Krishna. Just chant Hare Krishna. As simple as that. Because when we chant, we hear what we are chanting. That's why we do not chant, we chant loudly, so that at least we should be able to hear our own voice, right? So the sound vibration is going into our system. Even materially, if we listen to a song a few number of times, we see that subconsciously we start humming and singing that song, or that song is on our mind constantly, and we cannot get it out of our system. So in the same way, when we chant this Hare Krishna mantra, it enters our consciousness, it affects our consciousness. And when we are on our deathbed, it's probable that we cannot chant because mucus, we get choked by mucus, okay? So it's possible that we may not be able to speak, we may not be able to chant, but we can remember Krishna at that time. because it's in our consciousness, because we have practiced it in our lifetime. It's there in our consciousness. We will be able to remember Krishna at the time of death. So at the end of the day, always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. 14.
दैवीह्येषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते.
This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
So Krishna is first giving us the problem. What is the problem? That this divine energy of mind, this material energy, is difficult to overcome. So if Krishna says it's difficult, then boy, it is difficult. So he's saying it is very, very difficult to overcome. That is our weakness. But how to overcome our weakness? Also, Krishna is giving us the solution. He says, those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So he's telling us what is our weakness, but he's also telling us how we can overcome that weakness, how we can overcome it by surrendering. Once we surrender to Krishna, then we can very easily cross over this, the three modes of material nature, go beyond the three modes of material nature. If you see, the Srimad Bhagavatam is a collection of case studies of devotees who have bounced back despite difficulties. You see Prahalad, so many difficulties, but he bounced back. He overcame all his problems. You see Dhruv Maharaj also. He also went through difficulties. He was refused his father's love and affection, but he also bounced back. Even the Pandavas went through so many difficulties. They had to go to the forest. They lost their kingdom. They were insulted. They lost their wife in the gambling match. And they were close associates of Krishna. In spite of that, they went through so much of inconveniences, right? But they all bounced back. You will never see any story in our Shastras which has a sad ending. You will never come across that. They have all bounced back, right? They have all crossed over this difficult to cross modes of material nature. Yeah. Okay,
Mataji,
so
our very own Srila,
sorry?
our very own Bhakti Vedanta A.C. Srila Prabhupada, he also faced so many trials and tribulations, but he
Yes.
surrendered to Krishna and he bounced back.
Exactly. Very nice, Mehak. So for the first 1 year that Srila Prabhupada was in America, he went through so many difficulties. Krishna so severely tested him, isn't it? But then he did bounce back. And how he bounced back. And thankfully, because of that, we are able to study these Shastras. If not for Srila Prabhupada, this class would not be happening and I would have not been in Krishna consciousness. So yes, very nice. Okay, yeah, so coming back to Srila Prabhupada, very interesting. Why did Krishna do what he did to Srila Prabhupada? Because at the end of the day, if you go to see today, nobody can claim that I helped this person to spread Krishna consciousness. Because that 1 year, Prabhupada sent letters to the Indian politicians, to his god brothers, requesting for help, but no help came. Okay, so Krishna gave all credit to Srila Prabhupada. That statement is also there by Arjuna in our Bhagavad Gita. Like Krishna tells Arjuna, actually, this war has already been won. Actually, the Kauravas are already dead. If you want, you can fight the war and you can get the credit. But actually, Krishna has already done everything. So in the same way, Krishna gave all credit to Srila Prabhupada because of his sincerity and his purity. Nobody today can say that, oh, actually, I helped this, and that's why this movement has spread. No. Prabhupada has got all the glory from Krishna. So there is a reason behind everything. At that time, we may not understand, but as I said, nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens by chance. Okay, so coming to material world, this divine energy of mind, Krishna says. So who is the superintendent of the material world? Who is the superintendent in charge of material affairs? Who is the boss? Only material affairs. Okay, let me give you a clue. The material world is compared to a fort. What is a fort in Hindi?
Durga.
Durg. So who is the superintendent of the material world?
Durga Devi.
Yes, goddess Durga. She is in charge of material affairs. That's the reason why the material world is compared to a fort, Durg, and her name therefore is Durga. Durg also has another meaning, which means very difficult to overcome, very, very difficult to overcome. So she is not going to let the living entities cross her jurisdiction and go to the spiritual world, because that is the service that has been allotted to her, to test the sincerity of the living entity. She is going to, only when we are really sincere, she will give us a no objection certificate. Okay, you can leave. But until that, she is going to delude us. She is going to delude us. And for all those souls who are not sincere, they remain within her jurisdiction. We cannot cross over. So let's read a little bit about her.
Superintendent in charge of all material affairs. The aforesaid presiding deity of Devi Dhamma is being described. The world in which Brahma takes his stand in Devi Dhamma, consisting of the 14 worlds, and Durga is its presiding deity. She is 10-armed. She rides on the lion, representing her heroic prowess. She tramples down Mahisasura. She is the mother of two sons, Kartikeya and Ganesha. She is placed between Lakshmi and Saraswati, representing mundane opulence and mundane knowledge. She is armed with 20 weapons.
So here you can see she is there guarding the fort. She is a fortress of this material world. That's why certain Puranas will say that Durga is the superintendent. She is the chief. Yes, she is the chief of the material realm. But there is a reality higher than that, as we have discussed. Beyond that is the Brahma Jyoti. Beyond the Brahma Jyoti, we have the Vaikuntha planets. Beyond the Vaikuntha planets, we have Goloka. And in Goloka, we have Krishna residing eternally as a 16-year-old cowherd boy. So, yes, here she is topmost, but this is not the only reality. There is something beyond that. This is a verse from the Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita are verses that were spoken by Lord Brahma in glorification of Krishna, and he mentions Durga in his Brahma Samhita. Let's just read the translation.
The external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself.
So even Lord Brahma is stating this, that goddess Durga conducts herself in accordance with the will of Lord Govinda. Who is Lord Govinda?
Krishna.
Krishna, yes. One of Krishna's names is Govinda. What does the name mean? The word Govinda means one who gives pleasure to the senses. Then there are two more meanings.
Protector of cows.
Yes, protector of the cows. And one more. Land. One who gives pleasure to the land. So Govinda has these three meanings. So what is happening in this picture? Who is this personality?
Mahavishnu giving instructions to Durga Devi.
Okay, Mahavishnu and Durga Devi. But is he giving instructions? Let's closely look at the picture. What's happening? It's difficult to spot it actually, but if you know the story, you would be able to tell. Anybody else? This is a time of creation.
Is creating Maya Devi?
No. So what happens is Mahavishnu is glancing at Goddess Durga, and that glance of Mahavishnu takes the form of Shambhu. And then Shambhu and Durga unite, and then all the living entities come from the womb of Durga Devi. And that's the reason why she is considered to be the mother of the universe. So these details are there in the Bhagavatam. If you want to read in detail, you can see. Anyway, coming back to the point, Krishna says that this divine energy is difficult to overcome, but when you surrender unto me, you can easily cross beyond it. So you can see this living entity is struggling in the vast ocean. And no matter how expert a swimmer he may be, he has to really, really struggle there in the waters. But if he surrenders to Krishna, then you can see the Lord comes. He is the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So very easily, he just has to stretch his hand and the Lord has come to lift him up. So when we surrender to Krishna, that very, very difficult situation becomes very, very easy. Very easy. Krishna, Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is very simple for the simple-minded, but very difficult for the crooked-minded. Okay, so we'll stop here. We'll continue in the next class. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mataji, a question for you.
Yes.
I wanted to pay through PayPal, but it's not going through. They don't ask me for money. So he sent me a text saying that you didn't give me any money, so I'm deleting you. It's not that I'm not giving him. I don't know how to do it. And there's no phone number that I can ask him.
So who is this person that you are dealing with? Who's he?
Mataji, thank you for today's class. I have to leave.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Komal.
Thank you. Thank you,
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I don't know. I have to go and check my email. He sent me the text on that email, but I don't know his number.
Okay, so you have been communicating with him via email?
He just sent me one email and he said no reply email. He just informed me that it's $50 US, but I'm not in the class because I have not registered it. But my point is that I don't know how to pay through PayPal. I am a member of PayPal, but he's not accepting it, or I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, you probably something is going, because PayPal, normally it's very, very simple. You just connect your PayPal account to your bank account and you put the email of the person there and you can transfer the money.
I don't
Usually
have
it's very simple.
Account.
Okay. Is there anybody there who can help you? Because the person will have to sit with you. And do you have any help there?
No.
At your place?
No.
Okay. So can you forward that email to me that he sent you? I will try to speak to him and see what's the problem. Is that okay?
Sure. Oh yeah, perfect. Because I'm ready to give him American dollars. I don't know how to connect to my, how can I take money out of my account and put it in his account? It's very easy with other PayPal like Amazon.com. I have been paying through PayPal, but this is becoming a little bit tedious for me at least.
Okay, okay. Or maybe you can ask him if he has an Indian account number. And do you have an account in India?
Yes, I do.
So probably that would be easier to transfer from an Indian bank account to him in India. Probably you can ask and see if he has one.
But I don't know his Rift number or bank account details.
Yeah, that you will have to ask him. You can tell him that do you have an Indian bank account detail where I can transfer the money?
Okay. Okay, then I'll forward the email to you as well, in case you get in touch with him or something like that, because the time is coming very close and I really want to join this.
Okay. So you send me the thing and I'll see if there's anything that can be done. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we have Shivani who is joining us for the first time. Is it Shivani? You were there for the joint class, I think so. Okay, probably she's not around. Okay, what else do we have to discuss? Good to see you, Adarsh.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else we need to discuss? Okay, so
Mataji, you can for the Canada and the US people, you can announce that tonight we'll be having change in the time zone.
yes, the Santiago clock moves 1 hour ahead at 12 midnight today, but I'm thinking that we can maintain. Okay, so if we continue to do it at 5 p.m. our time, it will be for Canada. It would be what time, Mehak? Please help me.
Komal has already left. She's the expert.
Yeah, because now 3 hours separates us. Later, 4 hours will separate us.
Because
right?
Varun and Aditya are also there, right, in the class? And also Shreya.
Shreya, yes, Shreya.
Yeah, so we can just tell them, let them know.
Yeah. Or I'll put it in the group. I will put it in the group,
Yeah.
and then we'll see how it goes. Yeah, thank you, Meg, for reminding. I had completely forgotten about it. Yeah, so Santiago clock moves 1 hour ahead. So next class we will have a little bit of a change in the timings. Okay, what else? Okay, so see you all next week. Thank you very much. Have a nice week.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.